The following Agios-supported podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please speak to a healthcare professional before making any treatment decisions. The guests on today's show were paid to participate in this podcast.
Welcome back to Just Listen, Voices of PKD. I am Janie Davis, the Director of Patient Advocacy from Agios. And today I have special guests with me who will be discussing the PKD Conference. So I'm going to start off with Tamara.
Tamara Schryver.
Jill Welle.
And Alejandra Watson.
Thank you, ladies. So this past summer, you guys had the second International PKD Conference. I was in attendance and it was amazing for the PKD community. So I wanted to get some background, sort of like, how did this come about? Why? And any one of you guys can start off.
Well, we had the first international conference about 2 years ago, and it was a huge hit. And we learned from community surveys that they wanted to have another conference. So because we're a small group, we decided that for sure we will have another conference. But in terms of human power to put on a conference, we couldn't do it any sooner than 2 years. So about 2 years later, Alejandra approached me from PKDF and said, I know you're going to put on another conference. How about we do it together? And my thought was like, yeah, I think that would be a really good idea to do it together, just to see how we get along and just like in terms of manpower and resources, it made a lot of sense to work together. And also because we're just serving the same community. Mm-hmm. So we knew that we were going to do it, and I more than welcomed Alejandra's offer.
Awesome. And so Alejandra?
Yeah, for me, I knew that we were two smart, compassionate, and very dedicated people for our community. So my approach was like, let's do it together. I think that together with our strength, with our voices, and we know so many people over the years that we've been getting all this information to try to support our community, what other best way we can do and serve a community than working together? So even though we have two different foundations, it's not about the foundation or the name of each foundation. It's about how to empower our community to better understand that they have a voice, and that voice, we can amplify it together. So that is how all this come together to do it.
Agios is a biopharmaceutical company that's fueled by connections with patient communities, healthcare professionals, partners, and each other. Building on these connections and the company's unmatched leadership in PK activation, Agios is pioneering therapies for rare blood disorders, including PK Deficiency, thalassemia, and sickle cell disease. To learn more about PK Deficiency, visit knowpkdeficiency.com. That's know as in KNOW, pkdeficiency.com. To join the conversation with other patient allies, follow us on Instagram at Ally Voices Rising. That's Ally, ALLY, Voices Rising.
So Jill, you were an attendee at the conference this year. Tell us what you attended the previous one as well.
Yes, I attended the one in Orlando, and it was the first one. And it was amazing. We had really good attendance from all over the world, which was surprising. I don't know, Tamara, if you expected.
Oh, I was shocked.
And it was, I think, like for a lot of people, the first time that anybody has met another person with PKD. It was so powerful. And I remember talking to Tamara afterwards as kind of a recap of the meeting. I think the only thing that we missed was having a box of tissues on the table. Mm-hmm. A lot of emotions,
yeah.
A lot of tears. Even though there was great information, very educational, the power of bringing the people together spoke volumes. And it fostered, at least for me, and I think a lot of others, long-time friendships. Mm-hmm. from very diverse people, but having that PKD in common was the grounding force and the curiosity of your journey with this this thing. Now this coming year, this last year in July, I think about the same number of people. You guys can talk about the numbers, but we, at least Alejandra and Tamara, brought in more organized, more live people versus, because it was a couple years post-COVID for the first one, and there were a lot of remote expert speakers. And the information was amazing, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But for me personally, attending these conferences has been life-changing, and I'm making lifetime friendships from it. And of course, learning a lot. I thought I knew a lot, as much as I could about PKD, but some of the sessions that were presented this year, there were a lot of ahas. Geez, I didn't know that, which was surprising for me. So it's continuing to be educational as well.
Excellent. So you mentioned how many people were in attendance, how many countries were represented there?
So we had 140 people attend, which was our goal. A little bit of a challenge for Alejandra and I was that we had really gone to great lengths to make sure that we could reach the international community, and we had been able to raise funding to support people from India, Bangladesh,
Pakistan.
Mexico, Pakistan, Argentina, South America. And unfortunately, these people, even though they have money for travel, they were unable to get visas. So that's kind of a separate topic we can talk about later. But they were unable to get visas. With that, we were still able to get to 140 people, and the three main countries were US, Canada, and Great Britain. So we were happy with the turnout. And what's kind of interesting is maybe about half of those people were people that hadn't come to the first conference. So they were really, in essence, first-time attendees. So that was good. That was, reaching out to people that hadn't previously been able to come.
Awesome. So you mentioned the sessions and the aha moments. Alejandra, for you, as you guys were putting together the sessions, what were some key sessions that you wanted to make sure was there, and why?
We had two powerful presentations. It was so many, but I can speak for two that it was so important for us to deliver to the people that it was there and keep talking after the conference, because it's so important for us as founders or board members, doesn't matter, to make sure that the people understand what they had to go through, and that is a severe disease. So one of the things that it was important for us, it was to let know people that we have guidelines, that finally we create a guidelines for Pyruvate kinase deficiency. So how can we do that? Okay, we invite Dr. Rachel Grace, and Dr. Rachel Grace was one of the main chairs to put the guidelines together. So she delivered an amazing slideshow with some of the keynotes for the guidelines and where they can find it. So that was one of the biggest part for us. The second part, something that we all talk about it, but it's like a myth. And you don't really put so much attention of that, but it's very important for the patients to know that is iron overload. So we wanted to encourage people and know that they can go back to their doctors and tell, I need a test. I need that you test me and see how I'm doing, because it's so important for them to know that iron overload is not just a thing that you will have it because you have blood transfusions. That was not the reality. So we opened a lot of eyes with this conference, and people went back home after the post-conference. Was like, oh my God, I went back and I called my doctor to get an MRI. So that started a totally different conversation within our community. So that was we wanted to deliver. And then, of course, another big part is how can you advocate for yourself? So that is another big part. And I think that we deliver what we wanted. We empower people. And of course, we are going to probably talk about more of that. But I think the most important was 3. Because our conference, it was all about sharing, learning, and connecting. That was the power of our, and if I can say it, when we decide how we were going to call it, it's like we were building bridges. That's why we decided building bridges with PKD, connecting, sharing, and learning. Why? Because we were 2 different foundations bridging together to help more people. So we accomplished what we thought since the very beginning.
Awesome. So Tamara, what was your thoughts around key sessions, highlights, and
Some of, I would second what Alejandra said, but some of the things, I really think the men's zone, we had a breakout session for the men's zone, and it was pretty much unscripted. It was private, it was for adult men, and it was really a time for them to talk about sensitive topics that only men, so I don't know what they talked about, I have an idea, but we all got compliments on setting aside that time for men to have together, and they set up a WhatsApp group to continue their conversations afterwards. So I think that was really a big hit. We had a lot of positive feedback about the breakout group for parents who are parenting kids with PKD. Just about the sensitivities about some parents have children that are very sick, and then some parents feeling guilt about their kids that aren't very sick, and just the fact that they are there to support each other no matter what stage of illness their child is in. So that was another group. And then we also provided sort of a private meet and greet for one of our PKD persons who has gone through gene therapy. And so he was able to meet with families that were interested in gene therapy. And so I think some of those really personal meet and greets that we prearranged were very valuable to people that are really undertaking serious aspects of the rare disease journey, having to be able to talk to someone else and share kind of serious emotional information. I'm glad we created space for that. We got a lot more valuable feedback, or we got feedback that was a lot more valuable than I think what we even realized, and we'll probably continue to do it in the future.
Awesome. I mean, personal connections are so important, and especially as you guys mentioned before, for folks who had never met anyone else with PKD, or for a caregiver of a child who's a young child and they're just gotten their diagnosis, to be able to not only meet other caregivers, but then to see adults with PKD.
Right.
And how critical that is. So Jill, you mentioned before about aha moments. What were some of your aha moments during the conference?
Well, I'm not shy. And one of my goals was to make sure that I connected with everybody there, no matter age, caretakers, as many people as I could talk to. And I think mission accomplished. Now, how much do I remember? All the detail. But for me, aging with PKD, I first focused on 55 and older group. I was seeking out people that were older than me to say, okay, how is this for you, aging with this blood disorder? It's hard anyway when you get over 60. Things start breaking down, you start getting tired. But then how exponential, how is your quality of life at 70, at 75? And there were a few folks that really made a difference for me, saying, yeah, I can live a decent life at 75, but I need to be doing these things in order to do that. And on the other side, seeing parents with babies and toddlers, and I could just see the look in their eye, the fear of what's our path here for our child, to be able to offer hope for them, that your child can live a normal life. You have better resources than I did back in the 1960s, where this thing barely had a name and nobody knew about it. There's a lot more care and there's a lot more hope, and you've got resources. And I think it gave them hope as well. The informational pieces, the one that really hung with me, of course, was the international guidelines. And what Alejandra said was the iron overload. Long-term effects of iron overload, if you don't pay attention to it, what could happen. And I'm under good care and treatment, but I just got my first ferrous scan a couple years ago, well over 60. You know, again, flying in the dark without proper care and without proper advice. My life would be different without these connections and without this information. And I'm so proud to be part of this group to be able to pass that information on to others.
Awesome. So I know like the PKD guideline session that Dr. Grace did, and then the iron overload session that Dr. Schiff did, that there was a lot of questions and insights, and really the guidelines given guidance not only for her patients but also clinicians, that sometimes it's the silent things, like how do you continue to monitor and manage PKD, and not just with regards to whether or not you're transfused or not. So I know a couple of other sessions was around self-advocacy. Alejandra, that you mentioned, there were breakout sessions on that as well. There was a general session on peak registry. You guys did a great working session on the life stage model. Let's start with self-advocacy, about those sessions. And I know that was one of the goals, was how do you have personal advocacy for those living with PK deficiency as well as those caring for those with PK deficiency. So Alejandra, can you give folks who weren't there some insight about that sessions?
I think what we wanted to accomplish is to give them the power, that to let them know that they are the drivers. They shouldn't be the passenger. Mm-hmm. The parents, as I'm a caregiver, as a parent, I added to have some control, because something that I learned along these years is that our children, they don't feel that power. They don't feel control over their own lives. And that really bothers me as a mother. And also, a lot of people know that I'm a teacher. And I've been, for many years, to empowering my own child to take control over his life. It's difficult, very difficult, because we are not just talking about that it's just a disease, but it's the unknown of that disease. It's to let us know, the doctors, what they are going through, how they are feeling, that they are not a number, that they are people, they are humans, that they need the validation of what they are feeling. And I'm not just talking about emotionally, but physically. So it's a huge set of things that they need to accomplish. So how can we empower this? We can empower the families, letting them know, first of all, they are not alone. Second of all, empower them with knowledge. Knowledge is so important for the parents to understand that they have this power, they have this knowledge, that sometimes clinicians, they don't have it, but we do. So for us, it was difficult, but at the same time, a little bit easier to put all this together. In that way, they can take it to their own doctors and say, look, you were wrong. And it's not because they are not smart or but they are doctors, they are humans too. They cannot absorb like a computer all this information and know it. So giving them that power to the people, to like, here, this is the information, you can take it to the doctor can read it at their own pace and absorb all this information and then have a discussion. And we also, part of our thing is, it's not always about to fight with the doctor, but to make a connection. A human connection is so important.
Yes.
Just like we are doing the human connections with people, PKD, it's also this human connection needs to be with physicians or the nurses or whoever is around. And given that human connection, we are thinking that it can happen a big change. And the other thing is, like I say, knowledge is so important. The parents are always so worried about the school, what is going to happen with the school. So we also provide them with some guidance as like what they wanted to do. We didn't tell them, oh, just need to homeschooling the child or do this. We give them the information for them to see what it was better for them, because everybody's different. We all do things in a different ways because we are so unique. So we try to empower them with different options that it can fit their lifestyles. Some are more social, some are more shy. Some kids are more probably a little bit more prone to be sick, and or the parents are so worried about that. So we try to empower with different options that they can do in their lives. That gives them the opportunity to be advocating for themselves.
And if I could just add on, some of the sessions that we programmed, we had Dr. Boucher come and talk about how to advocate for yourself to your doctor, where people could ask him questions about how to do that. That was one really intentional thing. And then another one that was super fantastic was we had another psychologist come and talk about how rare diseases can really get you down. And she talked about the psychological aspects of how to, and really what can you cover in 20 minutes, but how when change comes into our lives and the change of a rare disease diagnosis comes, how that unsettles our world. And how can we manage those changes? And I think just being able to understand that helped our participants and ourselves be a little bit stronger, and just those tips can help us become better advocates for ourselves. And then the other thing that we did was we took the AAC model for the life phase model, and we tried to do a exercise with all of the participants where we walked them through the findings of that, and then kind of asked them how do you perceive your life compared to the life phase model. So we tried to give them some tangible tools, advocacy tools, that in addition to all the peer support and all the academics, that they would have these tools that they could go home with to better advocate for themselves.
So Jill, when you think about all of the things for the last 2 years that you've attended, or the last 2 conferences that you attended, what would you want to see in the future?
First, having the 2 foundations come together was so powerful. It did elevate the second conference. I like to see, I think we can get more attendance because of the power in numbers and more connections. And actually, we talked about it this week, just a little bit about what I would like to see, and I think it'd help other attendees as well. We were close, we're doing some of that, but not as specific, is doing roundtables of, caregiver roundtable. People in demographics of ages 20 to maybe 30 something, like their lives, their challenges, and then aging with PKD, which is close to my heart, is getting the older population, and then talking about their lives and sharing the stories and your care and what are you doing and what does life look for you right now. So I like to see more roundtables. Really, I thought the conference, you gals knocked it out of the park. There's really not much more enhancements that I would see. We started off the first night with an icebreaker, and great feedback from that to get people connecting, pre-conference, and we had the evening receptions, which were fun. Just to continue to connect. I think we went out on the dance floor, and just it was. I wouldn't really change that much. The silent auction was new this year. I thought that was wonderful. People are excited about it. But for me, just more in numbers, and I think that can be achieved.
Yeah. And Alejandra, I know your dad performed.
Yes.
And then Tamara, your nephew.
Yeah.
And so I love the family pulling in everyone. And to Jill's point, it definitely contributed to, it was very familial event and conference, and the family of PKD that was all there.
Yes.
So speaking of the future, when's the next conference?
Well, we've committed to 2026. So, and I don't know if it's officially been announced, but Alejandra, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. Well, after the success of this conference, we realized that the two of us together, we accomplish more and we are more powerful. And I'm not talking about the power like a politician, but I'm talking about the power of delivering the good things. So we decided to merge PKDF and Thrive with PKD, and our new name,
Pyruvate Kinase Deficiency International Alliance. Yes, so we're super excited.
and we are so committed to be international.
Yes.
We are thinking that our community is not just United States based. We wanted to deliver all the good stuff around the world. So we have a lot of work ahead, but we are confident that we are going to make it because this is so important for our community. We are so small right now, but our project is get bigger and been helping all the people around the world go to the little places that they never been heard, they didn't even know about Kinase Deficiency. So we wanted to do this, and we know together we can do it. Our project is really big.
Yeah.
We are in the little baby steps, but we are going to get there.
So we were really inspired by all of the people that weren't able to come to our conference, to be able to reach out to them. So we are thinking that it's going to take us about a year to form, but our goal is to continue to serve the people that we are serving in the U.S., Canada, Great Britain, but also to find ambassadors around the world that can represent their countries for PKD, and then we can share information through the internet, Zoom meetings, whatever, but that we can, so that we can, maybe we go to them or whatever, but there has to be a way that we can all share our information to, underrepresented areas right now, because we know there's more people out there with PKD.
I love the information. I love the new name. I love the combination. And more importantly, I love it for the PKD community, the vision that you guys bring, and looking at internationally and for the global voices of PK Deficiency, and how you can continue to help support, as you so rightly said, Tamara, underrepresented communities, and that the conference further highlighted that for you guys, because I know in working with the different groups that you guys have been working globally and wanting to bring them together in person.
Right.
So there's definitely a great opportunity there.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. I want to say that it's great hearing and around the conference and all that you're able to do for the community. And for those who weren't able to attend, be on the lookout for the next conference for PKD. Be on the lookout for the combined organizations and resources and further information to continue to amplify the voices of the PK Deficiency community, as well as be empowered for self-advocacy. So thank you.